All right, a couple of things before I get right into the initial engine start is I'm going to include some alternator wiring that I did on the engine stand, show you a final harness tie down what I did here on the engine, oil filter adapter and the oil lines, as well as priming the engine, clutch cable install with the firewall adjuster. And then we're going to get right into the initial engine start, and it is going to be an initial engine start. So if something happens, we're all going to find out together. Hopefully it won't do that, so stay tuned. Okay, one of the things on this alternator that I'm not going to need, this happens to be a Power Master purchase for this car. It's nice that they included the harness, the adapter, but I don't need this extra white wire going to an electric choke, and if I did, I wouldn't be feeding it off of this part right here. So basically we're just going to have this alone go into this terminal, and I'm going to remove this wire, but I'm not just going to snip it, I'm not going to just heat shrink it, I don't want it in the harness at all. So I'm going to disconnect it here from the alternator, just pulling the tab back and lifting this connector up, and we're gonna, the green and red stripe wire is the one that goes to our alternator indicator light and circuit. So we're going to use that. That'll get incorporated. That'll be tied in the harness. And I'm going to pull this out and probably depin it and recrimp the connector. So we're just going to raise this little locking tab, kind of like what's on the Ford ones, where you can depin them. Get something underneath here and apply a little bit of pressure on the back side of the terminal while I pull this up. Always easier when you have three hands. There we go. So you're just basically unlocking it from this tab right here. There's a little plastic keeper in there, and it's just kind of sprung. Over the years this will get nice and hard, and then usually they break. And after taking that off, needless to say, I was not impressed with this crimp kind of setup. I would have done this a lot neater. So I'm going to take some time to undo this, crimp this, take this wire off. I will definitely shorten this wire because I don't like all this extra stuff with the loop sticking up in the air when this is going to be pinned in here. So I'm probably going to cut this down to where they're about the same. So I'll probably cut about an inch off of that wire, the black and white striped wire, probably up to here, strip it, repin it onto here, and then I will crimp it and put a dab of solder on there, put this back in, and then that'll just leave this one wire to come back over to our harness along with the with the battery charge wire that's coming out going around the chassis. So I will take care of that and then come back and show you the finished product. Okay, I've already kind of did my sanitizing. Basically actually pulled I actually pulled the strands of wire. I cut the wire off and then I literally pulled the strands out of their crimp and shortened it by about 1.5 inches right there. That's what I took out. And then just opened this up a little bit, recrimped it, and then put just a dab of solder to flash it so then it'll stay in the connector. Then we just take the connector, and again, you can put this one of two ways. The open square here, which is for the locking tab. So you can actually just slide this in so that the tab is either on that side, or turn the wire around however you want it to fit, how it's going to go in here. This is going to go sitting down like that, so go in from the back side, and I'm just going to snap it back in so it's tight. And I'll stick it back in on the starter side, and there we go. Now that's a lot neater for me. Somebody can do things differently. You know, no need for me to shrink tube this. If anything, I might put a small piece of thin tape around here just to keep them together, but that's going to go out. This will come out. I'll cut this off, the shrink tube piece. Green wire will stay in there. This will be in a harness along with the alternator wire out, and it's a lot neater this way, and I don't need this extra one. And I feel better about that connection, so that's just some of the things that I just do a little bit more anal than somebody. Alright, this is the alternator wiring that I dieted before it went into the car when I shortened everything over on the engine stand. So this is what the final product's going to look like. And to me, it's just a little bit neater, and I don't have a lot of loose wires hanging around. I have the remote oil filter mounted with new lines. I drilled and nut-serted the frame so it's securely bolted. Person had it over here before with sheet metal screws. I have the crankcase full of oil to a safe level right now, and I'm just going to crank this oil pump over by hand. Watch the gauge. I've got the dash kind of flipped upside down. Want to make sure that the gauges are working. I know that the oil pressure gauge does register. I grounded the gauge, grounded the sender. It flipped it to full. Same with the cooling sensor. So I'm going to watch the gauge as I crank the engine counterclockwise, or not the engine, excuse me. I'm going to crank the oil pump counterclockwise, rotation of it. And I'm just going to watch this gauge, which is the second one on the top here, because this dash is upside down. And key is on. I have my alternator light on, so I know I have live ignition, and I just want to make sure I have pressure there. And I do, plus I can feel the tension in the pumps. So I know that my oil pump and gauge is working, so I can carry on. Okay, in order to use this firewall clutch adjuster, this will slip over here, but this rubber, this piece we don't need. We just need the nylon, so we need to get rid of this rubber. And also the rubber is being held on by little tabs right here, kind of an extra little growth, if you want to call it, on the nylon circular part that will have to be filed down. So you got 4 of those going, one here at 90 degrees all the way around, shaved down, so that once that's done, this will fit over that, and then it will fit flush. Alright, I've installed the firewall clutch adjuster and taken the ball spring and the Allen head lock or keeper screw that's in here that puts the tension on to kind of keep the adjustment from slipping. We have little serrations all the way around the collar. And also I explained earlier that we needed to take the nibs off of the plastic part, the white piece, nylon. There's 4 little things that just kind of holds that rubber in, and so you just kind of file those off, and then this comes off, and we don't use that anymore. Then this piece will slip on, and this will go into the base, and that's where you adjust your clutch. All right, I've loosely put the adjusting collar in there and just kind of set the cable in, because I wanted to find out if I can incorporate the bracket, which I was able to take over to the bench and basically undid that and rebent it. So this will now get secured to the water pump, and that will hold the cable in place. All right, I have the clutch cable all back in. I had to modify the base a little bit, trim a little bit off so it wouldn't stick out too far here. It clicks as you adjust it. That's with the ball back in, the sleeves here, the collars here. And I was able to incorporate the original bracket, do a little modifying and trimming, and rebend this a little bit and utilize a bolt so it's secure. Alright, I'm ready to do an initial test fire to make sure everything's operational, and then I can go around and finish tidying up everything and make sure that it's snug. The throttle cable is not on right now because I can control the throttle by hand. I can also shut it off. I don't have the dash back in, but the gauges and stuff are hooked up. So right now I have my mag tack hooked up and my timing light, which also has a tack. And all right, I have the key on. I'm going to do a remote start, so I have my remote button here. That way I don't have to worry about the clutch safety switch inside. My timing light is hooked up, which will give me, you know, RPM as well. Plus I can advance or retard it, and I can double check my setting on the dampener. I have a mag tack set up here. We're going to go through and program the sniper right now for its an initial tune. We'll see what they have in here. I think pretty much they already have something in here, but we're going to find out. Oh, wait, that's so easy. You can use the laptop. And we're going to style 9. Let's close that. Okay, now we're going to have to cycle the key. Okay, so we've cycled the key twice. I'm going to go to the monitor, multi-gauge. Let's see what we got here. IAX ETS. Let me turn my, if I'm going to set my camera down, I'm going to need all my hands. All right, well, let's see if it pops. Let me get over here. All right, success. No leaks. We had good fuel pressure. I will get a plug wire rail set for each side, tuck these up against the valve cover, keep those out of the way. I have an air cleaner on order. I did check my gauges. I had good fuel pressure. Well, I had fuel pressure here, but I mean I had good oil pressure on the gauges. Tach's working, tach was registering inside, so we're set. All right, you can see we've got it running again. Our fuel pressure is up to almost 70 psi. We'll have to see about that. Fan just did kick on. It said it was 193, 94. I think it's coming on at 200. I'll have to double check. Our air fuel rate ratio, battery voltage, RPM,